thanks for joining us here and spending your valuable time with us. So,
my pleasure, and thank you for the kind words, Klaus.
But coming back to this VDMA, obviously VDMA, the largest association in Europe, maybe even in the world. I don't know, maybe, who knows. But what is it you do in India for your members? I mean, you know them all, you know their needs, you know their concerns, but what is it all? What you do actually for your members?
Sure, Klaus. So, Klaus, we see our role as VDMA India as a bridgehead, actually, between the Indian industry and our members on the other side. Now, VDMA, as you mentioned, Klaus, we have almost about 3,400 member companies. So, we are the largest industrial association. And from our members, Klaus, we have roughly around 600 members who are active in India. So our role is also to help and support our members who are active in India, plus be the first point of contact for our members who are looking to come to India, Klaus. And that's where we see our role, and we also network then with our members, with the other industrial association, government bodies. We are involved in the bilateral forums also between India and Germany. So to sum it up, I would say we see our role as a bridgehead between the German industry and the Indian industry.
Okay, and obviously being very successful, that is also something where an organization can earn money with, right? So because obviously that is a great support, but I think the member companies pay happily for it. I don't know any other organization which has such high regards, where the members have such high regards for the people running the organization. And obviously,
so Klaus, if I may just add one line to that, it's the VDMA membership is a voluntary membership. It's not flished membership. So voluntary means as an association, we have to offer some value add to our members for them to remain in VDMA.
And I reckon that was a message toward the ERKs, right? And you have to earn every day. You have to earn what you deserve at the end of the day. And I think you're doing a super job. And in this respect, obviously, I don't think more people in the country you really get such insights from MDs, from country heads of German organizations. And obviously everybody went through a roller coaster over the past 15-18 months. I mean, we had the strict lockdown in March, April last year, went actually into May, then the slowly recovery which took actually until August. Then everybody thought eventually, hey, COVID in India is done. We went through it, it's over. And then this tsunami which came actually in April. And now people talk about the next wave, Delta plus variant, Delta variant, or what all has been spoken about. So what were your learnings when speaking to those companies? I mean, what did you take out of this thing in terms of, we speak about resilience of companies, of enterprises, e-commerces, in growing, whatever, but what is your thing, what impressed you most?
Klaus, yes, you correctly mentioned the impact of the COVID on the companies. And if I would, maybe I would try to take out 3 or 4 key learnings out of the interaction with the German company. One is certainly empathy for the people, for the workforce. I think here the German companies in India, really they have taken a lot of initiative to care for their workforce. And to a large extent, I think amongst the German companies in India, there have been hardly any company which has undertaken actually let off people during this COVID period. And to a large extent, I think the members have been very careful and very sensitive handling the workforce. I think the factor of empathy with the people, with the workforce, I think this is a very strong message what the German community and what the German industry has set out in India. Second, I think the second important message was, Klaus, also looking at India as increasing the activity and sourcing activity in India, because due to the COVID, one of the biggest impact was on the supply chain. We saw huge supply chain disruptions happening due to the COVID. And I think largely going on the strategy of China plus one. So companies are looking, they have, as you know, traditionally German companies have been very active in China. They have a good presence. The volume of business with China is quite high, export of German machinery to China. So I think after China now, India is the most attractive market for the German companies. And that is what the companies who are already present in India are looking to increase their participation in India. We have some very good examples of companies setting up their Indian operations or converting part of their Indian operations into centers of excellence. Now, center of excellence means they are manufacturing certain machinery which are being manufactured only in India for global utilization. So from India, actually, the machines are being sent to the various subsidiaries. So I think increasing their importance of Indian operation, making Indian operation center of excellence, and increase sourcing out of India. I think this is another strong message what we have seen from the pandemic. And to conclude, I think the third important message is looking at automation solution, digitization, automation. Because to a large extent, we have seen when the first COVID wave hit us, a lot of the workforce left and went to the villages. So there was a shortage of workforce. I think that really has drawn the companies, even companies from traditional engineering sectors, perhaps companies who are dealing in heavy engineering, they are also looking at steps of automation, Industry 4.0, application of Industry 4.0. So I think these are the three very important takeaways from the COVID impact on the German companies in India, Klaus.
Okay, so let me pick one, sourcing out of India. Because I think that is a topic which is becoming more and more important now, less dependency on China, and also putting not all eggs in one basket. In the past, that's how I know sourcing in India. I did that for many years. I bought stainless steel in India, and actually the best country to export it to was Mexico, because Mexicans were always very happy if something went wrong, when either it came late or the quality was not as good, because then they could bargain and you know, do a bit of trade-off with the prices. Actually, being German, you don't want that. You want what you order, you want to get what you order, and you want to get that in the time you order it for. And that was always one of the big mancos for India. Do you think that is changing now?
Certainly. I mean to say, India will remain, it is a cost-sensitive market, and that would remain to a large extent. But I think what has improved also, Klaus, is the general awareness for quality, improvement in quality in the production happening in India. And I think if we look at our neighbors also, where would we stand out? What would be the plus sides that the Indian industry can offer in comparison with some of our neighboring countries from Southeast Asia? One is India has never been a mass market production, Klaus. We have the ability to make, I think, specialized, customized products. And I think that is where the offerings of the Indian suppliers can meet the requirement of the European customers also. And I think this is where India would stand out. I think it would be difficult for us to really, I think, embark on a mass production basis. But what we can really do is customize for the requirement of the industry or for the requirement of the European companies. And I think that is where, on the long run, India would have the perspective also.
Yes, and obviously this is not the topic of today's session, is talking about sourcing in India. And to conclude that, I think also one very, very important factor is if you want to work with Indian companies, you have to keep in mind that you don't fit. You don't find that perfect fit, which is perfect in all aspects. That one who's working with an Indian company has to invest time in educating what you want, what you need, and expressing that all the time, not just sending an order and then hoping it comes. I mean, that is not going to happen surely. But a different topic altogether. But I think very interesting, and yeah, good idea to do this maybe in the future. But coming back to a third wave we are all talking about. Yeah, now with the Delta variant, Delta Plus variant, Maharashtra is already starting. Cases pick up again, and let's hope that people will be sensible enough to to protect themselves, their families, and their environment. But that is actually also we as an organization. What do you do to prepare yourself? I mean, is it just you sit there and wait and see what happens because you don't know if anything is going to happen? If something happens, what do you do? How do you prepare an organization? Is that actually possible, or is that really the best strategy or tactic in that way is to wait and see what happens and then deal with it as in the way how it comes? What do you think? I mean, how are your member companies looking at that?
I think a very good question, Klaus. The only way, to a large extent, only way to avoid the third wave or to reduce the impact of a third wave, Klaus, is vaccinating the people, the workforce. And I think this is what the German companies have also undertaken in India. Large companies, they have already had vaccination camps for the workforce. And in fact, not only the workforce, but also the family members, the dependents have been vaccinated. And I think this is the way ahead, or if we have to a large extent, if we have to reduce the impact of the third wave, Klaus, I think vaccination is the only way out. As you would have read in the news also, India has really ramped up its vaccination drive. In fact, by various predictions, we need to do about 8 million vaccinations per day. If we have to vaccinate by end of December, 75 or 80% of our adult population. So India needs to go at this drive of about 8 million per day. Of course, if we were doing that, we would have within 10 days, we would have covered Deutschland. Then Germany would have been with the 80-85 million population. So, but for India, it's only presently we've vaccinated, I think, only 4.5% of our population have got both the.
We are also talking about the different size, right? So 1.3 billion is different from 80 million.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
But India is doing a good job. I mean, I really must say, especially when it came to first wave. Okay, maybe up for the second wave, we could have been a bit more careful and so on. But hey, had you asked me, I would have said no. India, COVID is done, and nobody expected that. So
Right.
vaccinate, and maybe because obviously this is a question I get asked all the time. Bosch, no problem. Yeah, they have their own vaccination system, Siemens and so on. But also smaller companies who have maybe only 5 employees, 10 employees. FICI, like an organization, they're offering those camps. Other industry organizations, they're offering those camps. So there's a way also to organize to vaccinate your staff, your people, even though if you're small. Yeah, and I think that is super duper well organized in all over India, not only in the big cities but also in smaller places, actually throughout the country.
In fact, I would just like to add here, Klaus, also to take your point further. What we have tried to do as VDMA, Klaus, we have tried to get typically some of our smaller members or the mid-size people having 30, 40 employees. So we've tried to get them together area-wise. For example, the companies in Pimpri or in Chakan together, that 15, 20 such companies come together and then join together in a vaccination camp. And that brings numbers, and that has also helped the members in this respect.
Yes, and that also shows the capability of Indian managers to be flexible and to find that odd solution in order to get what you need at the end of the day. But there's another topic I wanted to touch, maybe not really related to COVID, but in a way, yes, because everybody's saying e-commerce has really boosted. I mean, it has grown and etc., etc. And for me, e-commerce, when it comes to B2B, when it comes to machine manufacturers, was you don't sell a machine on the internet. Yeah, you sell, maybe a customer knows you and wants to order some spare parts, and you add a little bit on top, and it makes it easy to order it, easy to ship, and so on. But nobody comes and checks your machine and buys it if it has not been already a customer. Has that changed, or is that still the way how it used to be, and just maybe a bit more convenient, and people are more used to order spare parts on the net?
Again, a very relevant and pertinent question, Klaus. I think that's again been one of the changes what one has seen due to COVID or due to the pandemic. If you would have asked 5 years back, I think for the engineering industry, e-commerce was hardly known at all. But now we are finding, Klaus, that's why I find it very relevant, because at least it could be the way forward for certain engineering companies or the engineering industry also. And what is interesting, Klaus, is we are seeing an increase of e-commerce, especially buying of spare parts, small components from the companies in the smaller cities, in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Now, this is a very interesting, because I think to a large extent, people in the larger cities have options. For them, it's easier. But due to the pandemic, the people in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, transportation became a problem. And that's where I think it gave rise to utilizing the e-commerce platforms for sourcing components, certain spare parts. And I think this is going to, as we go ahead, now once the companies are used to ordering online, Klaus, I think this is one aspect that would pick up in the years to come, which was a strict no-no perhaps 5 years back. So this is, I think, one of the impacts of COVID, a positive impact, one could say.
Okay. And do we have any, I mean, just out of curiosity, any statistics how the e-commerce volume on the top line is growing within your member companies in India, or that's something you're not capturing yet?
I don't think so, Klaus, that we don't have those details or statistics, because I think this is, for the engineering industry, a very new topic, actually.
Yes.
Utilize e-commerce platform. It's not something they've been doing. So I think in a small way, some of the companies have started, especially companies who have smaller parts, let's say like sensors, sealings, bearings, couplings. For them, it's easier to do it online. And that's where we have started. And in fact, there is an example. The other day, I was hearing a podcast of an Indian startup, which has become a unicorn now, using the e-commerce platform. And they are really predicting huge growth in the years to come. So I think this is something which would pick up in a big way. But to be honest, at the moment, I think we really, as VDMA at least, we do not have too much information or data of our members getting involved in this.
Yes, and obviously coming to India, you have to look at it differently than already being in India. Yeah, I think it's part of a strategy, but obviously not the main strategy. I think it will be difficult for companies just to sell in the internet or on e-commerce, B2B e-commerce, when you're not present in India, when you don't have existing business relationships.
Sure.
And one more topic, which is Barbara touched it, which was travel. And one of the arguments, obviously, for a higher price of a German machine is that you also get a very good and reliable service. Also, very often being supported from Germany by German technicians traveling to India. How have companies solved this issue? I mean, how have companies where the user is depending on service, and then the technician couldn't come to India or had difficulties in coming to India? How did companies deal with that?
I think, Klaus, again, a very relevant point what you've brought out. And the pandemic has shown, Klaus, actually, many of the companies have utilized the platforms available. I think this is where we have really seen certain aspects of Industry 4.0 or automation coming in, and especially for commissioning or handling remote monitoring of machines. So through virtual reality, augmented reality, I think even from distance, people have been able to help in commissioning the machines, finding out where the errors in the machine is lying, maintenance of the machine, carrying out repair of the machines. I think this is amazing steps we are seeing as the possibility through automation, what really has been approached also through the engineering industry. And of course, the human touch, as you rightly pointed out, has been missed out because people from both sides could not travel. Even German technicians or engineers could not travel. And even from India, many of the companies could not send their service people or technicians for training to Germany. So this has certainly taken a hit, but people have, or the companies have tried to cover up this through the virtual platform. And in many, I think largely this has functioned also, Klaus, which is really amazing. I think another step we are seeing going ahead, which can change the whole concept of supply as well as engineering and services.
Yes, and I think obviously the advantage India has in this one, if you let's say compare it to Thailand or Vietnam or whatever, is the language. Yeah, I mean, being a German company, you can do it in English and your customer will understand it. Whereas being a German company doing the same thing with maybe the Philippines or with Vietnam or Thailand will have more difficulties in getting the same message across and getting to the same level of excellence what is actually possible in and with India.
Right, and also I think the IT industry in India, Klaus, I think the people are quite competent in software dealing with the ITS services. I think that has really helped the Indian industry.
So you just conducted in April, May, you conducted your yearly business climate survey. And what I would be interested, obviously you have the normal stuff you ask, okay, how do you see the future and so on. But Barbara spoke about all the things which have happened over the last 2 years, or actually it already started before that during Trump time when China became the big enemy. And obviously India somehow was in between that. We had the Kargil crisis, we had, a lot of other stuff which has happened actually over the last 2 years, and it resulted in the self-reliant India, Apanirbhar Bharat. India didn't join the RCEP, but India joined the Quad, that pact with US, Australia, and Japan. What impact will all those things, or what do you remember companies say that what will be the impact of all these actually very new developments against China, away from China, India becoming a strategic power in the in South India, and South Asia, and how will it impact actually the business of let's say a small, medium-sized, family-owned business who wants to do more with India or is actually doing business with India?
Right. Quite a complex question, actually, Klaus, because there are various facets or various factors that play a role into it. Some are, of course, geopolitical factors. The others are industry-related factors. So I'll dwell more perhaps on the industry-related factors, Klaus. When we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat or the PLI production-linked incentive schemes, I think the biggest advantage of these program is, Klaus, I think twofold. One is to develop the manufacturing industry in India. One could say that it is sort of Make in India 2.0, where the Make in India 1.0 was announced by the Prime Minister almost 5 years to 6 years back. So it's, you could
I don't know if it's my internet or Rajesh, but somehow it's frozen. I don't know. Rajesh is gone. Now he's back.
Yes, Klaus. Yeah. So Klaus, the second factor I think has been India's role in the global supply chain. I think India really needs to extend its role and become an important player in the global value chain. unless we can do presently, our contribution to the global value chain is quite limited. And unless we can really increase our contribution to the global value chain, I think this will not help the development of the Indian industry. And India really needs this push that the companies also start exporting in a big way. And I think that is a part also of the Prime Minister's call, vocal for local. So we are looking at producing locally and then trying to go global with these local products. And I think this is the right approach, and perhaps the first time that any government has really paid so much of focus on manufacturing and development of the industry. Certainly, as India gets more and more integrated in the global value chain, it will benefit both ways. It will benefit the partners also, and it will benefit the Indian companies in exporting. Of course, what is important is that the imports are also allowed, that India should have an open strategy for imports also. This is very much important, because if we need to export, we would need to import certain components, and then only you can have a product which can be exported well, can be exported at a good price. And of course, India is also, through the PLI scheme, looking at investments coming into India. And during the pandemic, in fact, India has done quite well in attracting foreign direct.
Which was really amazing. I mean, I was really amazed that still people were looking at investing in India during the pandemic. So right. That was, yeah.
And I think that's the approach. That's what the PLI scheme also talks about, Klaus, that foreign companies, foreign players investing in India and setting up manufacturing facilities in India. And that is the aim of the PLI scheme. So I think these are all approaches in the right direction. And this would help also, because in a way we are developing a domestic market. And with the development of the domestic market, it could also help the German companies who are operating in India, manufacturing in India, or supplying to India, because we are broadening our markets. We are also looking at the export potential. And I think this is a very well-known fact that the German technology Germany has the cutting edge technology, and the machines that the German companies really offer to the Indian customers are machines, technology which will help them to make products which can enhance their exports. So I think it's a win-win situation. It gives a good potential of expanding the business for India, for German companies in India, as well as Indian companies supplying to Germany or overseas, Klaus.
Perfect. And sorry, I forgot to mention it. We're slowly coming to an end. So please ask your questions, everyone. And whenever the questions roll in, we will cater to them in case they fit. Otherwise, we obviously will answer them after this event as well. I have one question which actually goes hand in hand with the topic we just spoke about. Will all these recent developments, that the repositioning of India on a geopolitical map, will it actually result in that the trade volume will go down versus FDI volume will go up, or how do you see that?
If we talk about the bilateral trade, I think, Klaus, we are all very optimistic about the bilateral trade increasing between India and Germany. I think we have not. It's about roughly around 20, slightly less than 20 billion euros, the bilateral trade. But I think the potential is enormous. And certainly, I think the bilateral trade will increase. It will, as I mentioned earlier, I think we will see an increase in the domestic market in India. And we will see also exports happening from India. So both ways we are going to see an increase, and this is going to be very beneficial for the bilateral trade. And traditionally, the bilateral trade has been growing before the COVID years. It has been growing at a rate of somewhere between 7% to 10%. And also, we are looking at, also as Barbara mentioned, the GDP in India is, we are looking at a growth in 21 of at least about 8 to 10%. And in 22, again, this growth is expected to be sustained at least by 10 to 12%. And I think another aspect, what is very important, Klaus, is India requires this growth, because
In this regard, Hans-Dieter Schmidt asked a question and said, do you know companies who have shifted their production from China to India?
As I said,
live examples who really said, hey, we maybe don't close down, but we open a second foot in India, or we close down China and restart in India.
I think our examples are more, Klaus, where we have seen the companies who are in India increasing their presence in India. So I would not really be able to say who have shifted or shut down their operations in China. But of course, we have ample examples of the companies who were in India and during the pandemic have actually built the German companies. The head office strategy is to increase their business volume in India and expand the operations in India. I think that's where we will see more trends coming in, rather than companies trying to move out totally or shutting down operations in China and move to India.
Yes, and with all of that, you believe that, and I think this should be maybe the last question, because I had a question here saying, do we really believe in the 10-12%, or is that the same old story like always? India, the future always has a future, but when it comes to present, it's always difficult. And yeah, what is your prediction in this? I mean, I have a clear opinion. But what is
a very good question, Klaus, again. See, it's India has been working. If we look at ease of doing business, India has jumped up many ranks in the ease of doing business. I think we are at 64 or 67 presently. Then introduction of goods and service tax, Klaus. Now, this is the biggest tax reforms that have taken place. So there are a lot of steps that are being undertaken actually, which are going to pave the way for India's growth story. Of course, we have been hearing about the growth story for many years, but I think now is where we are seeing in the last 2 or 3 many actions from the government side also to help and facilitate business and to give a launching pad. See, the government can give you a launching pad. Now the launch has to take place. That has to be the role of the industry. And I think, at least from the government side, there is a lot of focus and initiative to help and support the industry. So taking all that into consideration and taking an optimistic global environment, we are talking about a global, as per the engineering industry, 21 as per the VDMA predictions, we are talking about the global engineering industry increasing by about 7 to 8%. So there is going to be a positive growth in the global industry, and this would help and benefit the Indian industry also. So at least the next 2 to 3 years, this growth of 10 to 12% should certainly be sustainable. I'm very optimistic about it.
And I think there could be no better closing remark for this session. Rajesh, Barbara, also to you. And thank you very much for all of this to make this happen.